This is Breakfast with Steve Mills and Basil Zemplis on 6PR.
Good morning, Steve and Baz. This is a serious conversation because the Australian Association for the Teaching of English is pushing for English teachers to, this is their term, not ours, Millsy,
Yes.
queer up the curriculum, i.e. they want more literature in there about LGBTIQ themes and topics. Fair
Yep.
enough. If it happens in the world, it should be written about. So we want to know, can you get that sort of literature? Is it widely available now or is it available at all? But also the Q in LGBTIQ, what does it stand for?
Well, Bronte Price is a gay marriage and funeral celebrant and is an expert in this area, I believe. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. Before we get onto the literature side of things, can you just walk us through the LGBTIQ? I think we've nailed a few of them. Lesbians for the L.
So, yes.
Gay for G.
L is for lesbians.
Yes.
G is for gay. B is for bisexual. T is for transgender. And I is for intersex. And often at the end of that is the letter Q, which stands for a couple of things. It can either be queer or questioning or both of those.
Okay,
and the definition of those varies pretty broadly as well.
Yeah. Isn't queer an offensive term, though, now? Surely it
It
is.
certainly used to be, and within the gay and general community, there'd be people who would just recoil at the use of the word and be offended by the use of the word in that way. But there are lots of members of the LGBTI community that also use it to identify themselves.
So it's a badge of honour to say, I'm queer.
Yeah, a lot of people I know use
I'm
it.
a queer person,
Yeah, right.
or I'm queer. Yeah.
So let's talk about literature as a discussion point. Are there many books that could be put into the curriculum that include these groups?
Yeah, so there certainly are, and the fact that I think we find it really difficult to identify what some of those books or even films might be gives some power to the point that there is a greater need for some of those books to be included. They're either written by authors who identify as LGBTIQ, or they might feature characters that are LGBTIQ. And if you have a look at the current English syllabus at any year level, you'll find that it's very gender specific, that it's very, very straight. It'd be pretty difficult in most jurisdictions, states or territories to find books on the literature list that's approved that would either highlight or include people who are LGBTI.
Now, when we talk about great romance novels, Mills and Boon's books for many years have been romance novels, not to suggest they would be on the school curriculum, but do they go into this area?
I don't know. I expect not. I don't think there's too many Mills and Boon romance novels that have LGBTI characters. I'm not sure, but that would be my hunch.
Right.
I think we all agree, though, if it's happening in the world, and clearly it's happening in the world.
There'd be opposition.
We had a vote recently, Millsy, to allow same-sex marriage, so therefore it should be written about in
But
literature.
there would be opposition. You'd be surprised if this was introduced next year and here's your reading list and it's Sally met Sally and wherever they went. I mean, there would be some questions asked by some parents. Would you agree with that, Bronte?
Yeah, of course there would be, and I think it's going to take a step-by-step kind of change for it to occur, even a school by school or school district by school district change. There are lots and lots of LGBTI bits of literature. There's, for example, in where else but Oxford Street in Sydney, there's a bookshop called The Bookshop, which has been around for years, and it only stocks books of all sorts, fiction, non-fiction, poetry and so on, only written by LGBTIQ authors.
Sure. Okay, there you go.
Just a side question. Do you find your services are very different to a traditional wedding, for a gay wedding or even a gay funeral?
I think what I bring to it as a celebrant as a gay celebrant is a different filter. And so when people talk, for example, about walking down the aisle, I talk about using the ceremony space, because walking down the aisle, handing over one man or one woman to another man or another woman doesn't make sense. Yeah. So it's the same as questioning a wedding cake. You might have some dessert cakes, but fundamentally, a wedding cake is about fertility. Yeah. And for lots of us, for some of us, that will still be applicable, but for lots of us, it's not.
Very interesting, Bronte. Thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Thanks, Baz.
Good on you, mate. Bronte, he does good work.
Bronte
Good on you,
Price.
mate.